Hola a todos y bienvenidos una vez más a Inglés Británico Podcast conmigo, Lewis y Chris. So, Chris, ¿qué tal? How are you?
Muy bien, gracias. Yeah, I'm feeling a lot better today than I did last week and the week before last week as well. I think last week I was saying that I was on the mend, like getting better. Well, this week I'm
Mhm.
mended. Yeah, like not on the mend. I'm just fully mended. Obviously, today we're talking about phrasal verbs. I have gotten over my illness. He superado mi enfermedad. I've gotten over my illness. So hopefully I'll be a bit more awake and a bit more with a bit more energy in today's podcast. But yeah, I feel great. Thanks. How are you doing? ¿Qué tal todo? How's everything going?
Pues muy bien, no me puedo quejar. Very good. I cannot complain. I'm just looking. Maybe I need a shave. It's about time I have a shave. Usually I shave once a week, once every 10 days. And this has probably been just over a week now. So it's got to the point where I feel a little bit scruffy. And
Scruffy, yeah.
scruffy is my adjective, which means like messy or maybe not dirty, but messy and untidy. So now I have a bit of a beard and I feel a bit scruffy. So maybe tonight I will have a shave and I'll be like a baby again because at least my mum and my fiance tell me that I have a baby face. I don't really agree, to be honest. I feel like, I'm getting a bit old. I have crow's feet,
Yeah.
which is patas de gallo, and I have wrinkles all over my forehead. So yeah, I'm getting old, Chris.
We're at that age, yeah. So, well, a bit more vocabulary for our students. When you shave, do you go clean shaven, which is like, zero hair, no hair whatsoever, clean shaven? Or do you just go to stubble? And stubble is just, I think in Spanish they say the la sombra, no? They use like
Oh,
shadow
una
or,
barba de 2 días, una barba de tres
yeah,
días.
yeah. So do you go clean shaven or do you go to stubble?
Well, I kind of like going clean shaven. Usually, what I'll do is that I've got my electric razor, and with that, I will shave everywhere. But then I have a spot just here around my mustache. So I never really want to do a wet shave on my mustache because when you've got a spot there, it's very easy to cut the spot and then
Oh,
it might start bleeding. And when it starts to bleed, it'll bleed for a long time without
yeah.
any pain at all, but it'll keep bleeding. So since I did that a few times now, I will wet shave everywhere except my mustache. So then my
Okay.
mustache is always just a little bit thicker, a little bit longer than the rest of my beard. But to be honest, as you can see, looking at my arms, I'm a very hairy guy. So after
A
one
mustache is
day,
quite fashionable now as well. I see mustaches maybe 10 years ago were seen as creepy or old fashioned. But nowadays, hoy en día, nowadays, it's a very kind of sexy new fashion thing. Yeah.
well, there you go. Maybe it's time to bring the mustache back.
Yeah.
And You know, I didn't used to like having a mustache, but in recent years, it started to grow on me.
But yeah.
And by the way, this is a nice way of introducing the topic of phrasal verbs because grow, of course, your beard, as men, Chris, you have a beard as well, your beard grows and it grows on you because it's on your face. But if you don't like something and then over time you start to like it, it grows on you. For example, coffee. When I was at university, I didn't really like coffee, but then I forced myself to drink it more and more to give me energy, and coffee started to grow on me. And you could say the same about lots of things. And well,
Yeah.
I used to
Even,
like mustaches, and it's
yeah.
grown on me.
Yeah, even people as well, I think is really interesting. Is I didn't like him at first, but now he's growing on me. I'm starting to like this person more and more. So yeah, it's a really good phrasal verb that. And obviously the joke, I love it. I never liked facial hair, but now it's growing on me. Yeah.
It's a nice play on words, a nice pun. Un juego de palabras, basically. A
Yeah.
nice pun. But
Well,
now we've gone
before we
over.
start, sorry, just
Okay.
very quickly before we start, I just want to say how jealous I am of dark haired people like yourself because I can't have stubble. And I think stubble is very attractive on a man. I can't have it because I'm blonde. Obviously, you see, my beard is not blonde, blonde. My beard is kind of a light brown kind of
Mhm.
blonde. But the problem is, I can't have stubble because you can't see it. Because if it's stubble, it's blonde and you can't see it. So I need to always have a short beard to actually be able to see it because stubble doesn't work for blonde people. So I'm very jealous of dark haired people who can shave and then 1 day or 2 days later have that stubble that you can actually see because it's black. Yeah.
I mean, Chris, maybe you can dye your beard.
Yeah. But I think if I dyed it, that would be more the tips of the hair, right? Like it still
Yeah.
wouldn't be the stubble. Like if it would still, yeah. I don't know how dyeing hair works, but I think it's the root. Can you dye the roots? I don't
I
know.
don't
Yeah. No. Yeah. Well, let's just
Who
say
knows?
no. Yeah, we're out of our depth here. We don't know what we're talking about when it comes to dyeing hair. We're out of our depth.
Exactly. And just remember that to dye, D-Y-E, is teñir. Teñirse el pelo. And it sounds exactly the same as to die. He died. So the only difference is, of course, the Y instead of the I and the context. So you will know that we're not talking about our beards dying,
Yeah.
but about our beards being dyed a different color. Maybe green, like Real Betis. Who knows?
Yeah. I don't know why you would choose green. Maybe on St. Patrick's Day, you might choose to dye your hair green. But yeah, any other time of the year, that's a weird choice. Green is a weird hair dye choice. Yeah.
It's unusual. It's
Yeah.
definitely different.
It's definitely different. Yeah. I think you will definitely get noticed. Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, let's get started with these phrasal verbs because I was thinking what we could chat about today. And this morning in class, I was reviewing some phrasal verbs with a student. Then we were using them in conversation, which I think is the best way to truly grasp phrasal verbs and be able to use them yourself is just by speaking. So, from this list of conversation questions, including phrasal verbs, I've also added the Spanish translation, so Chris and I are going to take it in turns to choose a question, ask it, answer it, and keep going. So, Chris, does that sound all right to you?
That sounds perfect. Yeah. Let's crack on. I don't know if that's one of the phrasal verbs you've got on your list today, but let's crack on. Let's start.
So, crack on, let's start. And a nice expression to say the same thing is get the ball rolling. And we could also say, let's kick off, let's
Kick
crack
off.
on,
Yeah.
let's kick off. Phrasal verbs are everywhere. You cannot avoid them. So let me share my screen now. And I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to pick a question. So let's start with the second one. Chris, do you think that politicians should step down after a certain number of years? In Spanish, ¿crees que los políticos deberían dimitir o dejar el cargo después de un cierto número de años? Hmm, what do you
Interesting question. It's especially with what's happening in the world at the
reckon?
moment. That's a very interesting question. Um, Obviously, we have democracy in most of the world where you can't run for more than 2 terms as president, etc. I don't agree with this. I think if the elections are fair and the public want this elected official to continue running the country, I don't think they should have to step down. I think obviously if they want to, then they can. I'm not saying they are forced to stay in their position, but no, honestly, I think they shouldn't be forced to step down if the public still wants them. It's kind of, it could be, it could lead to a negative outcome where someone you really, really like is forced to step down, and then you have to elect someone new. But maybe, again, I'm not naming any countries specifically, but maybe the new candidates, both candidates for the presidency, maybe both of them are worse than the previous one. But because they were forced to step down, we have to make a decision. So I don't know what you think about it, about specifically politicians. Should they have to step down after a certain number of years or terms?
No, to be honest, I see your point, and I think you make a good point. And I guess I see eye to eye with you. We are on the same page, where, of course, the important thing is that it is a democracy and that the people vote and they choose who will lead the country. And as long as there are regular elections every few years, then people have a voice and a vote to decide what direction to go in. Um, we maybe won't get into exactly who we think should be the president or not, but um, with this, it's true that if everything is going well and we have a long term vision, which sometimes we don't have in many countries, then why not allow them the possibility to continue in charge as long as they are democratically voted to be the president? Because this allows you
Exactly.
to plan for the future, and I think a lot of countries and leaders tend to think only of the short term. And this mindset can actually be detrimental sometimes. Because, for example, if we think about pensions and this aging population at the moment in many developed countries, and of course, the elderly or older people now vote a lot more than younger people. So then they have a fantastic pension in some places, not everywhere. But it's not taking into account the fact that the pension system will probably be destroyed by the time you and I get to that age. So it's okay. Short term benefit for
Yeah.
long term harm. What is better? That's an example off the top of my head. It's a
Do
tricky
you
thing.
know what happens in Spain? Obviously, I know very little about politics. I don't read about it, even British politics. I know what we learn at school, houses of parliament, members of parliament. I kind of get it. But is Spain the same, where they are forced to step down after a number of years or number of terms? Do you know?
I'm not 100% sure. Let us know in the comments if we
Yeah.
have any experts in the field or people who know how the system works. But as you mentioned, in the UK, I think in the United States as well, you cannot have more than two terms. You cannot have two mandates in a row. And I assume that is the same in Spain. But people in the comments, you can confirm or deny whether
Yeah,
this is
and it's
true or not.
a great opportunity for the students to also practice the phrasal verb step down so you can use it in your answer. Yes, Chris and Lewis, they do have to step down after X amount of years, or no, they don't have to step down. So, yeah, great practice for you guys as well.
Okay, perfect. Now, I'm sharing my screen once again. Now, Chris, it's your turn to pick another one and ask me.
Perfect. So I'm going to go with I think it's the fifth one or the sixth one. I can't really count that quickly. Who do you usually get along with best in your family? ¿Con quién te llevas mejor en tu familia? Before you answer the question, Lewis, I think we should also point out another phrasal verb. Point out that we can also say get on with, exactly the same meaning, to get along with someone, llevarse bien, or get on with someone, también llevarse bien, sin ningún diferencia. So, Lewis, who do you get along with best in your family?
Hmm. Well, first of all, I have a relatively small family. So in my direct family, I have a sister and obviously my mum and dad. They're still together as well. And I don't know, from the question, I don't know if we're speaking about direct family or wider family, extended family. I suppose it includes everybody. Of
Yeah,
course, I get along really well with my mum, my dad, with my sister as well. I think maybe it's me being an English guy that I'm maybe not the most communicative. I'm not like calling my mum and dad every day or every week. We have a WhatsApp group
yeah.
and a Facebook group where we'll send messages and photos. But I see, for example, my fiance chatting to her mum and dad all the time. And I am a bit, in Spanish, you might say, pasota, where I kind of don't make a big effort, or I just do my own thing most of the time. So I'm not in active conversations with my family all that often, despite not living back home in the UK.
Yeah.
But I also have a little cousin, and we met up over Christmas, went out for some drinks. So if I had to choose someone outside of my direct immediate family, I'd probably say my cousin Will, who's 5 years younger. And we spent a lot of time together growing up together. And nowadays, whenever I'm back home, I always make an effort to see him and catch up with him as well. Like, ponerme al día con él. So, yeah, in general, everybody. But if I had to make a special point of someone outside of my direct family, I'd go for my little cousin Will. We get on really well. We get along really well. Um,
Awesome. Go Will. Yeah, whoever you are, shout out to Will. Yeah.
let's go, Will. Um, and in your case, before we move on to the next question, is there anyone in particular who you get on like a house on fire with in your family?
No, I think very similar to you. Obviously, I have a very small immediate family, one sister, mum and dad who are still together. I get on with all of my extended family, cousins and aunties and uncles, but I don't really have a relationship with them. I
Hmm.
think the last time I saw my cousins were at my granddad's funeral. Yeah, I think it's at that age now where I see them at funerals and weddings. That's it. I don't have any kind of relationship with them. And I don't mean this in a negative way. It's just, distance. I live in Spain. It's
Right.
harder. Exactly. It's life. So I think, again, in my immediate family, I get on with everyone. Again, I hope they're not watching this and they maybe like think I'm picking favorites. No, I'm not picking favorites. But I think in terms of hobbies and interests, maybe my dad. Again, this is not to say I love my dad more than my mum. Of course not. I think it's just because me and my dad are both huge football fans, especially Brighton and Hove Albion fans. We have that in common. So every Saturday, we're WhatsApping. Oh, what a goal. That's our WhatsApp conversation. It's just
Uh,
once a week messages about the Brighton
big
game.
win.
So, exactly. Yeah. So Brighton are playing tonight. Obviously, we record on Mondays. Brighton are playing tonight. So I'm sure I'll be chatting with him. But obviously, I love them all equally and I get on with all my family. I think I'm very lucky that we have a very good family relationship. But yeah, interests and hobbies, I think I have more in common with my dad.
Mhm. Perfect. Now, just to go over that idiom that I used, because you mentioned rightly, we have get along with and get on well with. But I also asked you a question of who do you get on like a house on fire with? And
Yeah.
to get on like a house on fire is just a very emphatic, kind of strangely descriptive way of saying to get on really, really well. For example, I could say that I met a friend of a friend at the weekend, and immediately we connected. It was like, oh, this guy's awesome. We got on like a house on fire, which you think a house on fire, and maybe you
It's a
think this
bad
is
thing.
bad.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
strangely, if you get on like a house on fire with someone, you get on really, really well. Where this idiom comes from, I'm not sure, but it's a cool one.
Maybe because fire catches very quickly. Maybe it's something related to the fire spreads very quickly. Also,
Uh-huh.
another phrasal verb, if you before we move on to the next one, which is very related to get on with and get on like a house on fire, is to hit it off, which is very similar to get on with someone, but more specific to that very first meeting. Si conoces a alguien y en el primer momento te llevas muy bien, tienes una conexión con esa persona, we can say, I hit it off with James. Oh, I met James last Saturday and we really hit it off. Just meant like immediately from the first moment of meeting, we were very close and had a good relationship or friendship. We hit it off. So, yeah.
No, perfect. And we can use this also with like dating and romance. Let's say you have a first date with someone and you're a bit nervous, but there was no reason to be nervous because you really hit it off. You connected from the get go, which is a nice way
From
of
the get
saying
go.
from the beginning. You hit it off from the get go. Awesome. Okay, let's keep going.
Yeah,
And
we get distracted. There's so many phrasal verbs that we end up getting distracted and teaching extra ones. Yeah,
I mean, it's great. The more phrasal verbs that come up naturally, the better. But
exactly.
now it's my turn. So, well, how about we go for this one? Make up. Because make up, well, it has a few different meanings, and that depends. But you can make up a story if you invent a story, like you make up an excuse as well. If, for example, you have an argument with someone, but later you make up, it's like you make peace. But don't confuse makeup like maquillaje or maquillarse with makeup as a phrasal verb because maquillarse in English is do your makeup or put on your makeup. So it's almost like you do your hair, you prepare your hair, or you put on clothes, just like you put on makeup. But yeah, we wouldn't say, I make up before I go to work. No,
Very
very
common mistake, though. I don't know if you agree, but this, for me, this is one of the most common mistakes for Spanish speakers. There's, I need to make up. What? I need to do my makeup. So yeah, this is not an insult to Spanish learners. It's a yeah, it's a common mistake, but a very common mistake. I think. I don't know if you agree.
100%. It's one of the
Yeah,
most common mistakes. And it's strange as a teacher when you correct this mistake because I don't know about you, but I always get the impression that people didn't know this when I explain it to them, which makes me feel great as a teacher because I'm like,
yeah,
yes, I'm being useful. Because
yeah,
a lot of people are like, no lo sabía. Qué bien, muchas gracias. I had no
yeah.
idea. So yeah, it feels good
People
when you
don't
do
realize
correct.
that. Yeah. People don't realize that as teachers, if we spend an hour and the student doesn't learn anything new, it's kind of like a kick in the face. It's like, oh, well, I did nothing today. It's like literally, I mean, obviously the student practices and blah, blah, blah. But I don't know if it's the same for you. But me as a teacher, if I spend an hour in class and they don't learn a new phrasal verb or a common mistake and how to correct it, I feel like I didn't do anything.
No, 100%. You always get that nice, reassuring, rewarding feeling when you see that you've taught them something new and they've
Yeah,
used it as well correctly. It's like
yeah,
you're giving yourself a pat on the back almost, like, well done, me.
yeah.
But
Yes,
anyway,
yeah.
back to the question. So, Chris, did you ever make up stories when you were a child? Which is, inventabas historias cuando eras niño. And if not stories, excuses. Whatever.
Yeah.
Just you make up.
Well, I think as a child and an adult, I always make up excuses, but let's stick to stories. Yeah, I think as a child, I was very inventive and creative. I had a very I would say a large imagination, but derivative of popular culture, meaning even though they were my stories, they were very similar to real stories. Let me give you an example. I remember once at school, I wrote a story I made up. sorry, a story. I wrote it, but I made up a story about dinosaurs and how I was this character and on an island of dinosaurs. And then I read it. Well, this is just Jurassic Park. Like I'm just like, but I wasn't like trying to do that. Like it was my story. It was my imagination. But the general premise, the general idea, I kind of didn't make up. I stole from Jurassic Park and Steven Spielberg. But yes, the events which happened, the characters, their relationship, I made that up. I think as a child, I was a lot more inventive and creative than I am now. I mean, this was in English literature. I don't know if you also had, writing tasks like this to make up your own story in English literature.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I've mentioned before that I was never that into reading growing up. So perhaps as a result, I wasn't that into writing either. And of course, it's compulsory, it's obligatory, it's mandatory. So you have to do certain things for English language and English literature. But I think the only things that I really made up were like variations of my own life, imagining that Pokemon existed, and then
Yeah,
me thinking that I actually wandered around adventuring, traveling with my Pokemon, or maybe similar things with other pop culture as well, with Harry Potter, for example,
yeah.
imagining that you could cast spells. So I never actually made up and wrote down any of my own real stories, but you'd constantly have your imagination thinking like, oh, if only I could do that too. I
Yeah.
wish I lived in that world. So that's probably the extent of my creativity when it comes to making up stories, of just imagining myself in said worlds of Hogwarts, Jurassic
Yeah.
Park, Pokemon, and so on.
So here's a good question for you. Obviously, I don't know your life plans, but hypothetically, if you have a child, hypothetically, you have a baby, a child, would you read stories or would you make up your stories for the child? So obviously, it's very common to read to your children before they go to bed. So would you read a real book to your child, hypothetical child, or would you make up a story for your hypothetical child?
I mean, I think I'd probably read a lot more real books than making it up myself. Then perhaps to make things interesting from time to time, I might kind of go off script a little bit
Yeah.
if I've got a book in front of me, and I might just tweak it, just change it
Yeah.
slightly and use my own imagination at the same time. But with my nephew, for example, I've practiced reading to him like bedtime stories, and it's nice. And I think since having this podcast and my other podcast as well, my ability to tell stories has got better as well. I think I'm better at stressing certain words, at kind of building suspense as well. So I
Do you do the
pride myself.
accents?
I can
Like if
try.
it's
I
like
can try.
A Scottish character, like when you're reading to your nephew and then the Scottish character says, do you do the accent as
Why,
well?
I laddie.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. What's going
But
on
yeah,
here
yeah.
then?
I
That was
mean,
a terrible Scottish accent, but yeah.
you gotta, make it interesting and make it more engaging. And if you are telling a story, just give it your everything. Give it
Yeah.
everything and make it as an interesting as possible. But yeah, that's what I'd say about making up stories and making up excuses. You have the classic excuse that people would make up is that, ah, sorry, my dog ate my homework.
Yeah. Yeah, the bus was late. Yeah, no, it wasn't. The bus is on time every day, but it's a great excuse to make up. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, let's keep going then. And let's do maybe one more each. So, Chris, I believe it's your turn to ask me. So, whenever you're ready.
Well, let's do quite a funny one. So the penultimate, have you ever slipped and fallen over on ice or a wet floor? So alguna vez has resbalado y le has caído in yellow or in a suelo mojado. So I'm trying to read. It's very small, the Spanish. But yeah, in English, have you ever fallen over, Lewis? And could you maybe give us a quick description of fall over, slip over, and trip over. Obviously, three very similar phrasal verbs, but with slight differences. So could you maybe first, maybe I think that would be a good idea for our students. What's the difference between fall over, slip over, and trip over?
So fall over is, let's say, the most neutral one. If you're walking and then you are upright, you are
Yeah.
vertical, and you fall, you fall over, which a lot of people think this is you fall down. But to be honest, we don't really say I fell down.
No, it makes
No, I
sense, but
was,
yeah,
I was walking, I was running, and I fell over, meaning I fell on the ground. Very
yeah,
neutral and the most common. Then you said slip over is if the floor is slippery, maybe it's wet or it's icy, then imagine also from cartoons, if you see a banana peel on the floor and
yeah,
then somebody walks over the banana peel, then usually you, woo, you
yeah,
slip over. So you slip over, all over, because it is slippery. Resbaladizo, slippery. And then the last one was trip over, which is interesting. And I'm sure I'm going to get that nice feeling of teaching something now because many people aren't aware of the fact that trip is also a verb and it has nothing to do with actually traveling. Because if you trip, it means like you fall. But with that nuance, that matiz nuance of maybe there is a stick in front of you where you're walking, or perhaps there is a rock. And if you like hit it, you trip. And if you trip over, it means that you hit something and as a result, you fall over. And I
yeah,
think it usually happens with like sticks, stones,
yeah.
you're
Or
walking, you hit
somebody's
something
foot
and
as
you
well. You're like,
fall
yeah, a
over.
person could trip over someone else. If Lewis is walking and then I put my foot in front of his foot, I trip over Lewis. Quick question before, obviously, I know we've got to talk about the question on the document, but a very quick question. In the north of England, did you have the joke where if somebody trips over, we would say, "Where's my postcard?" Why does that make sense? Well, because as Lewis mentioned, a trip, the noun, could be un viaje. So when someone trips over, we say, "Hey, where's my postcard from your trip?" Hey, did that same joke exist in the north of England?
I haven't heard it before. I would just say like,
No.
"Oh, how was your trip?"
Oh, yeah. So
So
without the
like
postcard,
asking
maybe it's because I'm older. I'm a
without the
different
postcard.
generation. Yeah, yeah.
But now she's like, "How was your trip?" And
Yeah, where's my
there's one more
postcard?
meaning of yeah, there's one more meaning of trip, which is, well, if you take hallucinogenic drugs, then you will have a trip, which is an experience of like
Yeah,
traveling when you are taking, for example, magic mushrooms. That would
yeah.
be a trip. You can
Yeah,
have a good trip
un
or you can have
viaje,
like a bad trip.
yeah, un viaje psicadélico. Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
So
But
let's go back to
returning
your question. Sorry. Yeah. So have you ever fallen over? And if I could ask my own question as well, do you laugh when other people fall over?
well, first, because this is an easy response, yes. Whenever
Yeah.
people fall over, slip over, or trip over, I laugh and it cracks me up, which is a nice way of
Depending on
saying
the
it
age.
makes
Depending on the age, if like a very old person falls over, I don't laugh, I'm worried. But yeah, if it's someone my age or a teenager or a kid, it's hilarious when they fall over. Yeah.
I mean, you have to laugh. If you don't laugh, you'll cry. so,
Yeah.
so, yeah, I would laugh when other people fall over, whilst also showing a little bit of concern. But if I see
Yeah.
that the person isn't injured, then I'd be like, that
Yeah.
was fun, right? And me tripping over, slipping over, falling over, it's definitely happened quite a lot. I can't remember specific examples right now, but for example, if I have been ice skating, then you go ice skating, and the whole point is that you're going to be skating around on ice. And it's almost natural and expected to, fall over. And if you
Yeah.
do, you hurt your bum, your bottom a little bit. And it's just part of the process, really.
Yeah.
But this is also a common like date to go to an ice rink and go ice skating. And then you might be, skating with somebody you like, and then you fall over. And it's like, God, I want it to look
Yeah.
cool. And now I don't. So I can't remember a
Yeah.
specific example.
But it
I
always
definitely
happens.
do trip and fall over.
Yeah, always at the worst moment, like you said, like you'll be fine the whole, but then as soon as there's a pretty girl watching you or just a group of people watching you, that's the moment you fall over every time. Yeah.
And then you just act as if nothing ever happened.
Yeah, exactly. Also, that was another interesting question is, do you feel embarrassment when you fall over in front of other people? Do you feel embarrassed or are you like, hey, this happens to everyone. It's fine.
I think in general, I get less and less embarrassed nowadays. Like
Oh,
I used to
really?
get embarrassed quite easily when I was at school. I think as I'm aging and as I'm getting older, I care less and less what other people think. So now, of course, I still might go a little bit red. I might get a little bit embarrassed, but eh, it's no biggie. And I'm probably never going to see these people ever again. So that's usually what
Yeah.
I tell myself. And I might be like, and then walk away and just not look
Laugh it
back.
off. So, yeah. And another great phrasal verb for our class today. Just laugh it off. And this means to, yeah, laugh at yourself. And that makes the embarrassment go away. Just laugh it off. I have no idea what the Spanish would be like reírse para sentirse mejor, or yeah, to laugh off the embarrassment. If you act embarrassed, you'll be embarrassed. But if you laugh it off, then it's showing the rest of the people that you don't care. You're laughing it off.
Clay. No, no, no. It's a good point. Now, all right, let's finish off with a final question. So we'll make this a nice quick one. We've got
Yeah.
5 minutes. So, Chris, how about this question, which is, do you prefer to sell things that you don't use or give them away? And if you give something away, you donate it essentially. So, ¿prefieres vender las cosas que no usas o regalarlas o donarlas? Hmm,
Great question. Really good question. I think it depends on the item. I think, for example, clothes. Clothes I give away or I donate them. I give away clothes, but anything electronic, any gadgets, then yes, I try to sell them secondhand on Wallapop in Spain. So yeah, laptops, phones, things like this, I will sell. But any kind of items of clothing, I normally give away to my friends. If my friends don't want them, then I give them away to a charity shop. Yeah. Is that the same for you? Maybe it
okay.
depends on the product.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't own that much. And usually, if I don't need something anymore, or I see that something's like more or less broken, or I don't use it, a lot of the time, it's not something that has enough value to actually sell. So most
Yeah.
of the time, you'll see that there are places where you can throw away your old clothes and possibly it is recycled or given away to somebody who might need it. So usually I try not to throw it away and put it in the bin, but I try to take things that I don't need and give them away to a center where they recycle or give it a second life for the like
Yeah.
circular economy. A lot of the time I can't be bothered to sell it because I think, oh, that's going to
Yeah.
be more effort. I send it. I've got to talk to these possible buyers.
Yeah.
And I think I can't
All
be
of that
bothered
for
to do
10
that. And
euros.
it,
Yeah, all of that effort for 10 euros. No, I'll just give it away. And is it obviously in Gijón, it's not very common, but I know in Madrid and Barcelona it is. And I wanted to ask you about Brussels. They have these donation bins now where instead of going to the
Mhm.
shop, you can give away your clothes, but just by putting them in this designated bin. Obviously, I think there's one in the whole of Gijón. Is that quite common in Brussels, these donation bins to give away clothes?
It's not that common, but it's common enough. Like there are
Yeah,
these big bins where you can give your things away. They're not
yeah, more
all
than
over the
one.
place, so
Yeah,
you've got to go out of your way to go to this specific place with all of your clothes. So it's not all over, but they do exist, and I think they should
yeah,
be encouraged a little bit more because there's loads of clothes that maybe I don't wear, or maybe it's not my style anymore. And I think,
yeah.
well, I'm not going to sell it because it's going to be a few quid. So I might as well just give it away,
Yeah, and
is
it's
what I'd say.
easier to just put it in a bin than to go to a shop. So I think that's a great idea to have those bins for donations and giving away clothes. Yeah.
Absolutely. Good. Well, I think we will finish off there. I've already told a joke today, so we don't really need another one, really. But
No,
I'll repeat the
I
one that I
don't have
told you
one
earlier
prepared.
because
So yeah.
that'll be the one. So, of course, I said that I need a shave, and I didn't used to like mustaches, but now it's growing on me.
That's a brilliant one, to be fair. I don't
Also,
think we need another one. That's a really good one. Yeah.
it's enough. So, yeah, thank you, Chris, and I'm glad you're feeling better now. Thank you, everybody, for watching, listening, and leave a like if so. And yeah, we love you and appreciate you.
Yeah. Thank you very much for watching,
Bye
everybody.
bye.